So what is going on, everybody? I'm Fernando, and this is...
Jeff Benjamin.
And welcome to the Water Cooler, everybody, our hopefully weekly podcast that we've been putting in the books for a while. I don't know about you, man, but I'm very excited to finally get this going. It's 2024, new year, new us, you know?
Yeah, and it's something that we've been, like you said, we've been trying to, I won't say trying, but we've been just planning it and we wanted to do it right. And now it feels like the right time to launch this podcast. And the goal is to do it every week. That is a very... What
ambitious.
do you call it? Like it's ambitious, but I think we can do it. Especially, So what we're going to do is it's the water cooler. So the whole concept is like when you're at work and you're talking at the water cooler, you're not there all day
For that long,
You're just there for very briefly. So we're going to keep it fairly brief, 30 minutes or less. And I'm actually starting the timer right now. So
let's do it.
We're gonna make this thing.
Yeah, because we just want to keep you guys informed, let you know what's been going on in the tech world and the Apple world, and then give you guys our little tidbits about it, and then hopefully get some comments. Like we want to find out exactly what you guys got going on, what you guys think about what's happening in the tech world, and we're definitely going to try to include you guys as much as possible.
Yeah, we have some things planned on how to do that too. Maybe phone call-ins and stuff like that, or that'll be interesting. Yeah. And it's not just going to be about news. Like it's going to be about like us and like our own personal like tech things that we're working on, projects we're working on, sharing tips, tricks, ideas, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. No, for sure. But I'm excited. So definitely stay tuned, get subscribed. And we'll be putting this out first on YouTube on the 9 to 5 Mac channel, and then hopefully disperse it off to pretty much everything else that allows podcasts to go through. But we'll get there when we get there, you know?
For sure.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yeah. But yeah, the first thing we kind of want to talk about is iOS 17.2, because it released to the public about 2 weeks before the new year. And it's not every day that we get a brand new first-party Apple app, right? So Apple promised us this journal application with iOS 17, and it finally came out with 17.2. And my initial impressions are I'm relatively impressed. I kind of like it. What do you think?
I am very impressed as well. Like this was announced, back in summer at WWDC. When they announced it, I thought, oh, okay, cool. Like it was kind of out of left field. Yeah. But, and then it went, we had multiple beta updates, no journal app. And then eventually 17.2 comes, journal app's there. And I am really impressed, actually. It's a very well done app, extremely polished. It's not perfect. There are some opportunities for improvement, obviously, but I do like it.
I know, and I hope Apple just doesn't kind of set it and forget it. I hope they do kind of iterate on it, because like you said, like everything that you need is there. It is minimal and simple for a reason, I think. Let us know in the comments down below if you guys have tried it out yet. But I'm hoping Apple does kind of fix a couple things that we'll touch on in a little bit. But I do want to know, are you a journaler by chance? Like, is that something you used to do on your day-to-day or even week to week?
No, I've never journaled in my entire life, but 2023 was such an interesting year. I have friends who's like, hey, have you ever tried journaling? I'm like, no, but I'm going to try it. So I was actually using the Notes app this year for the very first time journaling. And while it worked okay, it's not really designed for that. So to get the journal app and have like all the features that's specifically designed for journaling is kind of nice. So I appreciate it.
No, absolutely, because especially for people that aren't from the journaling world or don't really journal, I feel like we need a little guidance on what to write. If not, we just start blurbing out whatever we want in the Notes application. Like, for instance, I'm not a journaler at all either. I've never journaled before. I see the benefit of it because my wife journals, and she has like an actual book that gives you prompts on like the best 3 things that happened this week, or what's something that you can improve on, things like that. So having the journal app kind of guide you and lowering that barrier of entry is what I keep telling people, to kind of get that post done has been awesome for me. And I have been using it more and more as the days have gone on, because it's easy to do, and it kind of helps kind of keep track of what you've been doing in your life, honestly. And it's fun to go back and see. Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing. It's interesting to go back and just seeing how I don't want to get too philosophical here, how you've grown, and the things that, it's just nice to go back and sort of like the Photos app, where you go back, you look at the photos for the previous year, and you just see everything. Or, apps like Spotify, Replay, and it just kind of helps you to reflect on how things were. That being said, I do appreciate the prompts, though, because I'm like at a loss. I'm like, what do I even do with this blank page? But the prompts are kind of cool. They're like, they make you think more than I thought.
Yeah. No, for sure. The reflection ones.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that actually been typing out and writing a little bit more, because in the beginning I was just doing the suggested kind of post. So basically, if you guys aren't aware yet, in the journal app, when you start a new journal entry, by default it'll suggest a few things. So if like you went to the mall one day with like your family, or if you went on a run and listened to a podcast, it'll kind of compile everything together for you and be like, hey, do you want to make this post? And it'll get you 80% of the way there pretty much. And all you have to do is title it, decide what kind of media you want in there, and then also write out the rest of the journal entry. And that's what I like about it. It makes it very easy for me to get started. But then you also have, like you mentioned, the reflection ones, which are just little prompts that Apple throws at you on the journal app to say like, hey, what's something that there was a funny one the other day that said, what's one thing, like name one good thing about one of your friends that you miss, or something like that. And then you just kind of start writing, and it's kind of fun to kind of, like you said, go back and see how you have grown and what you've been thinking about in the past too, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's well done. Now,
Yeah,
I do think there are some things that need to be improved, though. What do you think?
yeah, I do think maybe. I mean, you tell me first. What do you think you would add or take away or improve?
To me, it's like not having tags is huge, because sometimes you just want to, like, there's a certain topic that you've been talking about that's on your mind, that it's a continuous thing, and to not be able to just sort of filter, there's filters within the app. You can filter on like locations and various other like media.
It's pretty basic, but it's there.
Extremely basic. I want to be able, like the Notes app is a perfect example. It is extremely well done as far as being able to filter and get real granular results, where you don't really have that. And that's, to me, the biggest flaw so far with the app, if you want to call it a flaw or missing features, just the lack of being able to filter based on tags. Hashtags.
Absolutely. Because I know it's early, it's only been out for a couple weeks, so it's easy to go back and find what you need. But what about like a year or two later, if you journal every single day and you just have like a chronological timeline of having this go all the way back? You're in 2025 and you're looking for something in 2024, it's gonna be hard to find what you're trying to find. So I definitely agree with that. And then I do wish they had I wish it was like a little bit more interactive in terms of the type of media. So I think their third-party applications are allowed to work with the journal app. Obviously right now it's just working with first-party Apple apps in terms of pulling in the type of media like podcasting or stuff from your photos library. But I wish you could, let's say, like I had one that came up, it was an auto-generated one I wanted to run, and I listened to a podcast. So kind of put those two together. I wish I could like click on that podcast or click on that run to then take me to the fitness app or take me to the Apple Podcast app. But it's there kind of as an image. You can't really interact with anything. So again, I get the simplicity just to get people started, but also I want a little bit more sometimes.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So good app, opportunities for improvement, but definitely recommend, if you haven't tried it out or you just think it's lame, give it at least give it a shot, because I thought the same thing.
Yeah, try it out.
But it's
try
actually
it out at least once.
Yeah, it's actually pretty
my
good.
Recommendation. Yeah,
for sure.
Awesome. And then with 17, so that came out with 17.2, and if your phone supports 17.2, you'll be able to get it. Oh, and then one last big flaw is that it's only for iOS.
Oh,
no
yeah.
iPadOS support, no macOS support. I'm sure maybe eventually it'll trickle down, and Apple will tout it as like a brand new feature on iPadOS 18. You know how they like to do that?
Yeah.
But yeah, for right now, it's only on your iPhone.
That is a huge flaw, because I can't tell you. Yeah. I mean, the iPad is, arguably a better journaling experience. Like, you get the pencil. Size. Yeah, you get the pencil. Like, you can draw, and so that's kind of baffling. But maybe they just ran out of time. I'm sure it's coming to both Mac and especially iPad for sure. Yeah, maybe even Apple Watch.
Maybe even Vision Pro.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. But anything else from 17.2 that kind of stood out to you?
I mean, there was a lot of little things, a lot of little features. Definitely check out our video where we walked through all the top features. I think there were close to 50, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there was a lot.
It was a lot of changes. So yeah, definitely check those out.
Was the spatial video part of 17.2?
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah. So you can take. I
think that's a good one.
Spatial video. You can't actually watch them. I mean, you can watch them, but you don't see them.
It just looks like regular video.
Yeah, just like regular video.
Yeah.
But it's neat. It's really cool that right now we can go ahead and start doing that. Like, so if you have, say you had a newborn or a young child, and you want to just capture some of their first steps or something like that in spatial, like you can do that right now. So don't miss that if that's something that's going on in your life. or special moments.
Absolutely.
You know, that's something you can capture right now in preparation for the $3,500 you'll have to spend later.
No, 100%. And I've been taking a little bit of spatial video just for that fact. Like I want to have some of my own personal like media to view when we ultimately spend that money on the Vision Pro. And I think right now it's only for the iPhone. It's for the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max only, right? That's the only iPhones that can record in spatial. So if you have the regular 15, it won't work. And that has to do with the orientation of the cameras, correct?
Why'd you ask me that?
I think that's what I saw on the internet. Yeah, the internet's always right.
So here's the thing, man, and I've been slipping admittedly. Like I used to be in tune with every little piece of like inside baseball
nuance,
every nuance, and now, and I felt super comfortable on podcasts talking about pretty much anything because it's just like I knew it. I thought I knew it all.
Yeah.
But now it's like, yeah, don't ask me the hard stuff.
And like you said, this is going to be informal. So if you don't know, hey, we don't know, and we'll find out eventually. We'll come back and we'll tell you guys next week. You know? But yeah, I mean that was 17.2. Overall, a decent update. Nothing too crazy. Just the journal app, some new features for the 15 Pro and Pro Max. But overall, a solid update, and I haven't dealt with any bugs at all, honestly. So all we could ask for.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah. And then speaking of bugs, if we go now to 17.3, which is in beta. So 17.3 introduced one new big feature, more on the security side, which is the stolen device protection, which I think is a sick feature. When I installed it on 17.3 beta 1, it worked fine on my phone. And basically what the stolen device protection is like a secondary way or just another form of privacy and making sure that from a, all right, how can I put this? Basically, if somebody steals your phone, that they can't get into your stuff. Because technically, if somebody has your 4-digit or 6-digit passcode, they have access to your whole phone, right? Even if you aren't around with Face ID or Touch ID, which is pretty crazy. So now what Apple's doing with stolen device protection is using location data to figure out where you are. And it's basically if somebody tries to unlock your phone and you aren't in a familiar location, then they will not let you unlock your phone unless you have Face ID or Touch ID present as well. So think about it as the ultimate multi-factor authentication to get into your phone, which I think is awesome.
It is pretty awesome. And
yeah,
it's weird that it took this. I mean, it's weird that it took this because I remember it was Joanna Stern on Wall Street Journal, I believe, that like kind of brought this to the fore. But it's just weird that they didn't think of this before. But anyway,
I know, right? You would think like even like a 4-digit passcode is pretty easy to guess. I would assume, especially if you have enough time and the right tools.
Yeah,
to do
if
it.
you're just looking over someone's shoulder,
they can get it.
You look over someone's shoulder.
You know?
And
then
they steal your phone.
They could Apple Pay. They could look at your passwords. They can get into your bank accounts. That's crazy. Now that you think about it.
Yeah.
And I remember there was so like if you go into your settings, I remember like in an iOS 16 or 15 update, if you go like your accessibility or like your location services, that familiar location started to pop up, and everybody was like, "What is that for?" Oh, what the heck? Okay, okay, balloons. That's funny. Gotta love Mac OS, but basically those familiar locations started to be tracked, and you could decide to turn them off. And everybody was like, "Why is Apple doing that?" And I think this is the reason why. They wanted to learn where your home was for this reason, where like your work was, basically familiar locations that you go to often. So when you're in a location that's not very familiar, the device protection could take into effect, which is cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But then in terms of the bugs, if you tried to update to 17.3 beta 2 this past, I think it was Wednesday, there were some issues.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, people's phones were getting bricked, and I believe it was if your phone was, if you had the tap back feature turned on.
The back tap.
I don't even. Yeah, what is that?
The thing where you do that, and it's like the accessibility thing where you can double tap and then assign it to some function. Most people aren't going to have that enabled. I wouldn't. This mainly going to be like nerds and people like us, like nerds like me. But yeah,
basically everybody in our Slack, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, most people aren't going to have that back tap enabled. But for those that did, it could have basically put you in like a boot loop, which is super frustrating, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And we always say install the betas at your own risk. And for the most part, it's been for the 4 or 5 years that I've been doing it. It's very rare for something like this to happen. But again, it's a beta for a reason. Install at your own risk. Stuff like this could happen because when it goes into the boot loop, then you got to restore from basically your last backup, right? Is that kind of how it works? I think so.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think there's a way to get out of it. To be honest, I haven't really looked. It's been a crazy week.
I mean,
man.
I didn't even update it to the beta 2 once I found that out because I was like, I don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
So we're still on beta 1 for right now. But that's what we got with 17.3. Nothing too glitzy and glamorous, just some, a nice feature to keep your peace of mind, which is nice. And then obviously, if people break their phones, I'm sorry. That sucks. Nice, man. And then, so for 2024, what do you got? What are you thinking? I know it's still early. We're only like a week in, but there's some stuff happening already. Stuff brewing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what the iPad's going to be like. That I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to. It's just like, where's this going? Because did we get one iPad release last year?
We got none, I don't think. 0 iPads last year.
Yeah, so
which is wild. It's like the first time in forever.
So that's weird. But I'm interested to see where the iPad goes, hardware wise, because if we've had the same hardware since 2018, basically for the top tier model, the same design, more or less the same iPad for the last going on 6 years? Like going on 6 years, it's been basically the same. Granted, there are some features here and there that have been added, but looks wise, visually, like the design, it's more or less the same design for the past going on 6 years now. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. Like, what does Apple have in store for the iPad? And both hardware wise and software wise, looking forward to that.
I know, because the iPad it's kind of in this weird. It has been in this weird limbo state for a while. And I know, so Zach Hall, one of our writers, he wrote an awesome article, which we'll link down below, which is how the iPad is like road work, basically saying that it's forever being worked on. Right, that like you go on the highway and you feel like they've been working on this road for years and years and years, and it's because they have, and there's always something that they got to do to it. So that was a good comparison that we saw with the iPad, because it's true, man. It's since like my wife has the 11-inch 2018, and for her, I would consider the average consumer, she can use that for another 5 years, because that's how either ahead of the game it was or how little it's changed, I guess, Versus obviously for me personally, because I love the iPad and that's usually my main work computer, I'm trying to upgrade it pretty much every generation. I didn't get the M2, but again, I want to be a little bit wowed. I haven't been wowed by an iPad since 2018.
Yeah,
it's tough.
I have to say I haven't either. Like, because it's more or less the same device since then.
Like the one thing that has changed physically is the camera, which is something that I've never used. Then you have like mini LEDs, cool. It's crisp, nice. The hover feature on M2. I still haven't seen a good use case for it. Leave some comments down below if you guys have a good use case for it. But have you had a good use case for the hover feature?
No. But I will say, like the LED, the screen on the latest iPad is amazing. Like just thinking about how many local dimming zones are in that device. I mean, I think it's substantially more than what you have in a Pro Display XDR even, and
which is wild.
It's the display on that device is amazing, but it's just like software is still not quite there yet. They've made strides with it, but still not quite there yet. And it's just wondering, like, where is it? And that roadwork analogy is a perfect one. You're like, when are they? And it's always they. It's like, who is they anyway?
Yeah, who's doing it?
Why are they doing this again? Like, but
it's like, oh, they fixed one lane, and then now they're on to the next lane.
Yeah. And then next year it'll be the other lane again. So it's like,
yeah. And I mean, the iPad, the whole lineup is like, in my opinion, fully matured. Like now they've trickled down the design all the way down to the iPad 10th generation. So there's got to be something they've been brewing. Like we've heard rumors of an OLED display, which is cool. But again, not something that people are going to run to replace their M1 iPad Pro for. We've heard maybe some smaller bezels, also cool, I guess. But nothing, again, we haven't been wowed. And maybe that's because we're numb to it now at this point, and we don't know what else Apple can do. Like I couldn't even tell you what I would want out of a new iPad, aside from just maybe, I guess, a little bit better software. But even that, like, what does that mean? Do I want Mac OS on it? Not really, even though I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. Like it's something that I would really have to think about to see where I would want the direction to go. Maybe that's something that Apple internally they're struggling with, trying like finding a direction to take this, because it's like you have these two platforms that are so similar yet so different. And it's like weird.
And you notice like Mac OS kind of adopting a lot of the like the UI language of iPad. Like the icons are changing a little to be a little bit more playful and app-like. So I mean, maybe there is a world where everything kind of just merges into one. Like come 2020 or come 2035, it's just like there's no iPhone, iPad, or Mac. It's just Apple. You know, it's just like a device. Pick your screen size and go with it. Who knows? I mean, that's what I think is eventually going to happen. Some sort of merge. You know.
I think with the Mac and iPad, that for sure seems. It's not out of the question, I don't think. Like having, like, have you seen those videos where the people they like remove the screen from the MacBook, and they just have the actual base, the base of the MacBook with everything inside, and they just use that as sort of the computer. Well, it's like that, but having an iPad that can like attach to that sort of, and I don't know.
No, I've definitely seen those videos.
Yeah,
it's cool, and then. I mean, and then even now with like iPhones being USB-C and like what's to stop Apple from putting something like Stage Manager on an iPhone 16 to then plug into a dummy laptop, and then boom, you have like a Chrome, kind of like Samsung Dex basically, not kind of exactly like Samsung Dex, you know, like the Apple version of that I think would be awesome.
Yeah,
you just buy like a MacBook chassis, you got your iPhone, and then that's your computer for everything. That'd be an interesting world. I mean, Apple would cannibalize everything, but
yeah, they ain't gonna do that.
We'll see how Apple does that.
It's all about this, man.
Yeah. Oh man. But I mean, supposedly new iPads are coming Q1 this year, towards March. So let's see if they have an announcement. It has been a while. It's been about 18 months since they released the M2 version. And I'm definitely gonna get the new one. I have the M1. I have the baseline version. I'm going to get probably close to a fully loaded M3 iPad Pro because that's what I use to edit videos.
2 terabytes, baby. 2 terabytes. Something
to get me to the 16 gigs of RAM. You know, right now I'm still working with 8, and it's still working like a champ. It's awesome. But that's the iPad. I mean, I'm definitely excited for that, so that's a good one. And then, but then we got to talk about Vision Pro.
Yeah, we got 8 minutes. We got 8 minutes to talk about Vision Pro.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that's going to be enough time, but the Vision Pro, man, I'm definitely... I guess I'm excited, but I'm just like interested and intrigued. I want to know about it. Like I want to, obviously we have zero hands-on time with it. But I mean, what do you think? Like, what are your feelings and sentiments towards it?
I'm still at a loss. There was a bunch of posts the other day about, not the other day. I mean, this is several weeks ago, but apparently Apple had some sort of press invite where they invited some of the folks that had previously tried the Vision Pro, and they had said like, hey, in the meantime, go ahead and take some spatial videos. And then they were able to test out the Vision Pro and view their spatial videos. And it was as if like some of the descriptions were very interesting. I think one guy said it felt like he was going to tear up, or it was bringing tears to his eyes. It was just so like photos coming to life basically right before their eyes, and actually have it within space. I thought that was something.
Like, are you... I mean, I'm sure you've played with it, but are you an AR, VR headset person? Like, do you have an Oculus or something?
I've had like a...
No, right?
I've had a few, but it's...
Yeah. But nothing...
No,
nothing crazy. Yeah, I mean, I've tried the Oculus. I've never owned one. My brother has one. He literally never uses it. But I mean, I've never been a big fan of AR, VR, mostly because it's very isolating, and I'm already like alone in my office a lot of the day with screens in front of me all day. So like the last thing that I want to do is like get off of work and put on a headset and like be by myself again.
That's pretty much my exact sentiments. That's like literally the last thing. And it's so weird that
maybe we're just old.
Well,
I don't know.
I know I am. I don't know about you, but it's like, yeah, like it's the last thing you want to do after you've been working all day. But maybe that's the thing. Apple's not saying do this in addition. They're saying do this.
Yeah.
Like this is it.
Yeah.
This is the computer.
Yeah.
Going forward, the future. Like, but it's do this as the replacement. So then it's not as if you're like, all right, I've worked all day, I'm getting off work, then I'm putting this headset on. No, it's I get up, put the headset on, go to work, take the headset off.
Yeah.
Do whatever else.
Yeah. And then be done with work. Yeah, it's interesting. And then of course, like again, I'm coming from a place where I don't really use VR and AR stuff, so maybe it sounds a little ignorant in terms of saying like I think the AR VR, the demo is different. It's not really a productivity demographic. It's kind of like get lost in these worlds and like go play games and go interact with people like in the metaverse or whatever. I mean, that's come and gone already, which is hilarious. The metaverse, I feel like. But yeah, the Vision Pro is supposed to be not as isolating, even when you do have it on around people that don't have one, right? They have like the Vision pass through, so you can kind of see somebody's eyes and you can still talk directly to them, even though you have the Vision Pro on, which I'm curious to see what that's going to be like. Is it going to make other people feel uncomfortable when they're talking to you, right? Like, let's see. I mean, I'm just curious all around. I want to know what it's like, what it feels like, how it's going to be in the real world. Is it something that I use once and then put it down because it's kind of a gimmicky thing, or is it something that you really put on for 8 hours straight, and work on? So all things that I'm looking forward to.
I'm worried. I guess I have a couple of concerns, but number one is just fatigue. Like how, because that's one of the things about the AR or the VR headsets I've tried before. Like I thought they were really cool. Like PlayStation VR, I was blown away. And granted, that was several years back, but I thought it was like, I was wowed. And it really, it's crazy how immersive those things are. And that's just like kind of a rudimentary version of it. So I think just like eye comfort as well. I know Apple's working on that aspect as well, as far as corrective lenses and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot going against it. But I mean, you could have said the same thing, I guess, for like the PC back in the day. Like people thought that was crazy. Granted, this is a whole nother level, but
I mean, and for the most part, like Apple has a decent track record when it comes to breaking into new product categories. Obviously the iPhone, before that the Mac, then the iPod they created. Obviously that was what made Apple Apple in the early 2000s. Then they created the iPad. It's like, oh, let's get something between a iPhone and a Mac, and it's relatively. I mean, when people refer to tablets, even if they're not iPads, they still call them iPads. That's how, I guess, how much of the market they have in that tablet world. So, I mean, if anybody's gonna do it right, I think it's gonna be Apple. And at $3,500. I don't know if that pricing is because that's how much R&D they put into it and that's how much you're going to get out of it, or is it to like make sure not a lot of people get it, so there's not like I don't know, the $3,500 price point is kind of what's going crazy for me. I know that there's a full M2 chip in there, and it's supposed to be your computer. It's supposed to be it. So maybe if you look at it that way, then it's worth the money. But let's see. I'm definitely going to pick one up.
I still don't know, man. Like if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, and it was like coming within a few months, I would have said definitely yes. But I don't know. Like, I guess I need to know is this thing going to be able to replace like everything? Is it going to replace my laptop, my Apple TV, my gaming console? Is it going to be able to replace all those things? Like, am I going to be able to have multiple screens of Final Cut Pro? Like, that sounds very appealing to me, because right now you get like, you have like, I have the Pro, not the Pro Display XDR, the Studio Display and other monitors and stuff like that. And it takes up a lot of space for one thing. And then say you go to Starbucks, that would be really weird. But see, and how would you even, I guess the right? Power option as well. Like you think about the battery life of this thing too.
Yeah, and then the last thing is like the tactility of it all. Like I get it for like watching movies and like content consumption, but like if you got to get work done, are you using a physical keyboard that works right, or are you using a virtual fake one? What if I'm trying to input numbers into an Excel sheet? How hard or easy is that going to be in this new like interactivity with this thing? So if you really want to get work done, people are working on PowerPoints and Excels and things like that. So things we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this thing. And then the last thing I think is the purchasing process is supposed to be a little bit different than just a normal product. It's supposed to be, apparently, you can still buy it you'll be able to buy it online, pre-order it, but you're going to have to go into the store to get fitted for it, which I guess makes sense. Maybe you have to, like if you have glasses or if you wear contacts or if you have if you're not 20/20 vision, maybe you got to get it, calibrated to you personally. So that's another thing that's, we'll have to take into account. I'm going to try to get it. I'm going to try to vlog the experience if possible. So definitely let me know if you guys have any questions about it. And we'll go through there. And then also, is there a return policy that we're going to have to look at?
That's number one on my list, man. I need to know that first and foremost.
Right. Please.
Because, I think it's a 50-50 shot right now.
I know, because if they get it custom made for you, can you return it? I'm sure Apple could reset it, but And that's another thing. Like if I have it for myself and I want my wife to try it, would she be able to use it? Right? All things that we're gonna have to test out.
Better get that 7K saved up, man.
You sound crazy.
And get one for your little girl too. So
yeah. Hey, 3% cash back on the Apple Card. You know? There you go. But I mean, I think we're right around half an hour, right? So I mean, we don't want to take up too much more of you guys' time. That's everything we have so far, right? It's still early in the year. CES is right around the corner. I'm not going to attend it this year. I don't think you are either. But I think I could see Apple maybe releasing or announcing the Vision Pro release date on the first day of CES to take all the eyes and move it to Apple and avoid CES. That is such an Apple move, and I bet you they do that.
It'll be interesting.
I bet you on January 9th they'll announce that thing.
It'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah. Awesome, man. But take us home.
Questions, comments, feedback, let us know down below in the comments section. Of course, we'll be back. This is The Water Cooler with Jeff Benjamin and Fernando Silva. We'll catch you in the next one. Ooh, fancy.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.